Okay, it's Henry again, and this is my review video for the 1:100 scale Tengu Gundam. Now, this is a custom build that I made based on the Master Grade Sengoku Astre Gundam, and also used parts from Master Grade Shin Musha Gundam and the Master Grade Universe Booster. And for those of you who don't know what a Tengu is, if you haven't seen the work in progress videos, the Tengu is a Japanese mythological creature, part man, part bird. They always have a long nose. They usually have red skin and wings. They're normally depicted with a green feather fan and wearing Japanese wooden sandals. They also usually have this sash with the pom-poms on it. And it's one of my favorite Japanese mythological creatures, so I wanted to make a Gundam based on it. Alright, he's got this action base behind him. He's extremely back heavy. Even if he didn't have these sandals on, I would be nervous about letting him stand up on his own, but with these Tengu sandals, as you can see, he's quite the balancing act, so there's no way he can actually stand on his own without some kind of support. But the display base that I've got him on, I've got pins drilled into the display base, and then they go into these wooden parts of the sandal, so it holds him on pretty well. And he held up throughout the GBWC and New York Comic Con, so I'm relatively happy with the way that turned out. Anyway, I guess I'll start from the top and work my way down. The head is basically just the Astre head. Let's see, come on Mr. Camera. Alright, fine. Anyway, I added this little block up here. I just made that out of epoxy putty. The Tengu usually always have a small little black cap that they wear. And then I added a piece of cord that goes from each side of the hat and goes up under his chin. And it's not really holding it on his head, but it looks like it is, and just needed the illusion. The face, I completely sculpted out of epoxy putty. So that's all just straight sculpture. And also, coming out of the back of his head are some feathers. I just cut those out of some really thin plot plate and cemented those to the thrusters that were on the back of Astre's head. The sash is just a piece of white cloth that I cut out to go around his neck, and then the little pom-poms, I just glued those on. Up under there, he's got a little bit of Musha Gundam detail that I cemented to the Astre's chest armor, and the sash sometimes doesn't always want to cooperate. There we go. Anyway, shoulder armor is basically the Sengoku Astre shoulder armor, but I found some junk parts. I think that's from not Delta Gundam, Mega Shiki, and then this little vent's from the Universe Booster, and I just glued those to the top there. And you really can't even see it up under there. I chopped off the 3 little thrusters from the back of the shoulder armor and then cemented them onto the side here. And yeah, I glued another part on the back of the shoulder armor, but you can't even see it because of all the stuff. This large piece of armor here is obviously from the Shin Musha Gundam. I basically took all the pipes off of the side and put them up under on the inside, if you can sort of see them up under there. So they're glued up under there to be kind of like internal detail on the shoulder armor. And then the outside, I just glued some plot plate to make these horizontal lines on the outside of the armor. And then very meticulously cut out the kanji for Tengu out of really thin plot plate. This is the same plot plate I used for the feathers on the wings, and cemented that on there, and I think it turned out pretty nice. Let's see, the arms don't have a whole lot of modification on them. They're basically just the straight Astre arms, and then I took this forearm armor from the Shin Musha Gundam. Let's see, hold on. And modified it a little bit. I took this detail off Shinmusha's knees and cemented that onto the armor, and then obviously recolored it, and then just plugged that into the hole that was on the back of the Astray's arm. Skirt armor is almost all just straight from the Shinmusha Gundam. I had to use some builder's parts joints to attach the front skirts and the side skirts, because they just weren't really like compatible with the way the Astray's armor worked, and I pretty much just had to use a polycap out of my spare polycap box to attach the back skirts there. This gourd is like, you know, for water and stuff, is basically just made out of epoxy putty. I used a small little piece of styrofoam as the internal structure, and then just made a thin skin of epoxy putty in a gourd shape, and made that and painted it. And the cork in the end is actually just a piece of a bamboo skewer that I use for painting my parts. And this, the little crotch piece here, that's actually from the giant face shield that came with the Sengoku Astray. The bow is from one of those little tiny bear guy kits. Let's see, all of these little parts on the Sengoku Astray that had the clear green circles, I got rid of the clear green parts and used these little Musha Gundam emblems, because I thought that would look a lot, it would work a lot better with the Musha theme that this Gundam has. So I used those on the shoulders and the knees, and again on the ankles. A little bit of Musha detail here, modified these side parts, and this is kind of a combination of Shinmusha parts and Sengoku Astray parts, sort of layered up. Got some of these Shinmusha pipes there. The feet, I don't think I did any modifications to them at all, other than making the wooden sandals. And these are just made out of balsa wood, and I got some paracord and made the little ties that go on there, and they're glued together, and they've held up pretty nicely. I'm pretty happy with it. The fan, let's see, the feathers are all scratch built. I basically just took some 2mm ply plate and sanded and carved those down into the appropriate shape, and carved all the little feather texture in there. Again, I got some of those little Musha Gundam emblems and some little clear red jewels on there. The handle for the fan is from the Shinmusha Gundam's, I think it was the Glaive or Naginata, one of those two, I can't remember. The swords are from the Sengoku Astray. The Sengoku Astray doesn't have sheaths for its swords, so I basically had to scratch build the sheaths myself. In fact, let's see if I can get this off of here. I'm just going to take both of these off and show them to you. If I can get it off. There we go. Alright. Uh-oh, shoulder armor came off. Hold up. I'm just going to put him back here for a second. Okay. So, I decided to give him a long sword and a short sword. And, the main sword part, I didn't do very much modification to. I just cut off, or not cut off, but I left off the fancy end piece that the Astray had and just made a simple plain end piece, and then sanded the guard down a little bit so it's round instead of square. And other than that, not too much modification, except for on the short one, I just sort of snipped the sword in half and then glued it back on with a small pin. So it's got a short sword and a long sword. The sheaths I had to scratch build. All of this is from scratch. I just took some ply plate and made a box that would fit the sword blades, and then sanded that box to a nice rounded shape. And I added these little brackets here. They're going to hold this piece of rope right there, and added some epoxy putty on the end for the detail. Painted it, and then all these little wrappings here, that's just a cord that I got. It's the same cord that's holding his hat on his head, and the same as this right here, and then just did the wrappings. I actually had to look up on Google how to do the wrappings on a katana sheath, so it would be at least halfway accurate. And it's not perfect, but I think it looks halfway decent for a Gundam kit. Anyway, I think that about covers everything on Tengu Gundam. Now I'm going to put him away and show you the display base. And this is my display base. The whole thing is made from scratch. The arc is based on the Torii arch gate from the Itsukushima Shrine in Japan. I just googled some photos of the Torii and did my best to replicate it. The main structure is made out of balsa wood. I just got a couple packages of balsa wood from the hobby store and cut all the parts out and glued them together. It actually is held together pretty well just with glue. It doesn't have any pins in it, and it's surprisingly solid. I can even pick it up from the bottom of the arch there, and it holds up pretty darn well. The bottom is a circular piece of wood that I also got at the hobby store, and then did a layer of clay on top of that to simulate the seabed, the sand. And what I did is I ran some masking tape around the outside edge, and then poured in after I painted it first, and then poured in my diorama water on top. So you've got that illusion of the water and then the seabed underneath. And I did a little bit of weathering on it, not a whole lot, just did like a wash on the roof and then did some dry brushing all over it. And the texture on the roof came out pretty good. I used a wood burning tool to get this texture on here, and that worked out surprisingly well. My first time using a wood burning tool. Some of the feathers, kind of as an afterthought, while I was putting the whole thing together, I said, why don't I just make some extra feathers and make it look like they're floating in the water. So I've got 4 feathers floating on top of the water. I made these little frame things. That's part of the original Torii in Japan. The only difference is I can't remember what the kanji on the original one said, but I just changed it to the kanji for Tengu. And up here on top of the roof, I've got some broken tiles where Tengu Gundam is going to be standing. I've got 2 pins on the front one, and then here on the back I've got 1 pin because this foot's going to be kind of at an angle, and I've got some more broken tiles back here where he's going to be standing on top of the roof. But overall, I'm actually really happy with the way this turned out, especially since this was my first time doing any serious woodworking. I think it actually looks halfway decent. So give me a second and I'm going to put these two together and show you what they look like. Okay, and here it is all put together, and as you can tell I've really had to back up to get this whole thing in the frame because I was actually right at the size limit for the GBWC entries, because the height limit was 18 inches and Tengu Gundam is like 17.5 inches, and the width limitation is 15 inches, and his wingspan is right at 15 inches. So I was just barely staying within the size guidelines for this thing. But I'm really super happy with the way everything turned out. He's pinned into the roof of the Torii, and it's actually pretty stable. I know on Sunday at New York Comic-Con he did fall off the top of the Torii, and a couple people told me that they saw him on Sunday and he had fallen over. But luckily that was after the judging, and nothing really got damaged, so if you saw him on Sunday, I apologize, but he held up for Friday and Saturday. And here, when I've got him at home, I'm not really going to be shaking him around or moving him or anything, unless there's an earthquake, which hopefully there isn't. He should stay up on his little perch pretty well. I did forget to mention how I made the wings. I used the clear blue wings that came with the Master Grade Universe booster, and all of those feathers you see I had to cut out individually from pieces of 0.3mm plot plate. It's about the same thickness as computer paper or cardstock paper. and I just cut out the feather shapes. And for the larger feathers here on the ends, I used a small plot plate rod, or not plot plate, but plastic rod to do the little vein that goes down the middle of the feather, and then used my hobby knife to scratch in the feather texture on each one of the feathers. And I decided to just go with a simple pose. He's got his arms crossed and just standing with kind of one foot in front of the other one on top of the Tori, and I'm really super happy with the way everything turned out on this kit. Get up here and just sort of move around him. But really enjoyed this project. This was a smooth project. Other than accidentally spilling paint on my carpet, I didn't have any real big issues on this. It went really, really smoothly. So, sometimes they go smooth and sometimes they don't. That's just the luck of the draw with this hobby. It depends on what you're doing. So, I guess that about does it for the Tengu Gundam review video. I really enjoyed doing this project. I love doing something this creative. Like I said in the work in progress videos, this is about the most creative thing I've done in Gunpla. I mean, this is like something that you'd see in Build Fighters. But really happy with it. I'd like to do it again, maybe even with a different Japanese mythological creature, maybe the Kappa or the Oni or the Hanya, I don't know. But I guess that about does it for this video. Thank you guys for all your support and all the awesome compliments you've left me on my videos working on this kit, and thank you for donating to my GoFundMe, sending me to New York Comic Con. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.